So just one note, a big thanks to Oasis Global. They partially sponsored the report, and they were a huge help in getting this off the ground. So I've got 17 slides to run through in a little less than 7 minutes, so I'm running on a bit of a Mary Meeker multiple here, so let's see how I do. So 5 key findings here. I'm going to start, excuse me. I'm going to start by talking through some of the macro trends, and we're going to set the stage for the growth of hyperlocal targeting. Then a bit on the positioning of the state of positioning and targeting technologies that really form the bedrock for this industry. Then we're going to talk about some of the problems with data in the market. We're going to touch on the perennial issue of ROI, and then I'll close on a nice high note and talk about why and how brands are getting into this game. So, first question is why today? When we talk about local on mobile, we tend to think about the confluence of 3 important trends. The emergence of the mobile platform, of course, the use case for location services, and then the adoption of these services by consumers. So, last year was a just monster year for mobile. As of September 2012, there are more mobile subscribers carrying a smartphone in their pocket than those who do not, and that's just huge. But it's not enough that the platform exists. There needs to be compelling applications and services that convince and make it worthwhile for consumers to share their location with developers and in turn with advertisers. So developers have really latched onto location. There it is. They've really latched onto location, and they've woven location into 1/3 of the 45 billion copies of applications that have been downloaded from Apple's App Store. So between checking in on Foursquare, tracking down a cheap hotel at the last minute via Hotel Tonight, there's more and more compelling reasons for consumers to share location with developers and, in turn, advertisers. And that's just what they're doing. In fact, as of February of last year, 3/4 of smartphone users reported using a location-based information service like Google Maps or Yelp. And that's a 19% jump in 10 months. You can only imagine where it is today. So with the macro context set, let's look at some of the dynamics at play here within the industry itself. One of the key elements that we found was that hyperlocal targeting is not a commodity. It's not a bolt-on. There are a lot of nuances, both in the positioning technology and targeting tactics used today that are still in a state of flux. So, this is the positioning tech state right now. We add a lot of detail in the report, but what you need to know today is that there's just more than one way to cook an egg here. For instance, one of the big misconceptions amongst brands and agencies, and even folks in this room, is that latitude and longitude data is perfect. It's not perfect. There are multiple ways of creating it, and thus multiple ranges in accuracy. So the data issue is a quality issue, is a more complex one, which I'll touch on later. But we're seeing the same thing in targeting. The geofence, which I've heard for years as a commodity and something that is going to be lost, what we're actually seeing, what's changing, is how that algorithm is implemented. So traditionally, we've seen stuff like ring fencing, where you set a mile-long ring around your store, everyone inside it gets pinged. But today, we're really seeing new ways of implementing that technology. So take place-based targeting. We're seeing a lot of brands using geofences and polygons around stores to target competitors' stores, and not only to drive those consumers to their own business, but at times drive them to an e-commerce site where they can convert at that time. However, the biggest shift here is still to audience. We're still dealing with the mobile cookie problem. When we talk about audience, it's not just a sense of who's around me, but also using location as an indicator of intent in the same way that desktop advertisers use someone's web history as a way to drive retargeting and understand purchase intent. So the third takeaway we had was, as I mentioned earlier, data quality. There's a lot of ways to determine location, but here's the thing. We're not only seeing incremental variations in accuracy, a majority of the data, the location data that's coming through ad networks is incorrect. So here's the gist. As the demand for advertisers for hyperlocal inventory increases, the CPMs and subsequently the incentive for publishers to include latitude, longitude data increases as well. So, however, given the restrictions which both Apple and Google have in place around opt-in processes for sharing location, most publishers still can't pass this information. So what's accounting for the uptick? To skirt the issue, publishers are taking what they know about a user's location, say a zip code that's inferred from an IP address, and they're finding the geographic center of that, or centroid, and then passing that data to advertisers. So anecdotally, from speaking with a handful of companies in the space, they're finding that 70 to 90% of the data passed through ad networks, the location, the hyperlocal inventory, is entirely incorrect. And if we're thinking about spend and performance, that model is just not going to be there. So the data problem kind of flows into a larger issue, both in hyperlocal targeting and mobile in general, which is measuring ROI. Mobile consumers are researching online, as we know, or on their mobile device, and they're buying in stores. And this, of course, makes attribution extremely inconsistent and difficult to do. So, for instance, Google found that over a quarter of the mobile users who search for local information make an in-store purchase. And yet, the majority of those users are not attributed to a marketing campaign. So, we really feel that until vendors can find a way to demonstrate a clear connection between mobile engagement on one hand and offline commerce on the other, it's going to be tough for marketers and the marketers we spoke with to justify this sort of $1 million and $2 million spends on this sort of targeting technology rather than the $50,000 to $100,000 test budgets, which a lot of them are doing today. However, the money is starting to flow. And as brands shift spend to mobile marketing, location targeting will rise and we believe exceed the tide. So this is some data from BI at Kelsey. By 2016, more mobile dollars will be spent on location-targeted advertising than not. So, I hope you guys, you'll check out the full report. It really delves into more details on the crowded landscape of the offerings, how these technologies work, and again, we highlighted a couple of great case studies from some really successful brands. We think you'll find it useful for your own business strategy and planning, as well as a useful sales tool in your conversations with marketers. You can find the report at www.streetfightmag.com/reports, and there are also additional details on it in your brochure in your gift bag. So I'm happy to talk with any of you further about this topic. I'm running out of time now, but if you have questions, come grab me. I'll be around, or feel free to ping me at steven@streetfightmag.com. Thanks very much.